Every morning, millions of people wake up and voluntarily walk into their own prison. They call it going to work. But what they're really doing is trading their freedom, their creativity, and their potential for the false promise of security. They sit in traffic for hours, work in cubicles they hate, answer to bosses they don't respect, and build dreams that belong to someone else. Then they go home, watch television, and convince themselves this is normal. This is what success looks like. But here's what nobody tells you. Your job is not your security. It's your biggest risk. Your steady paycheck is not your safety net. It's your golden handcuffs. Your employee benefits are not taking care of you. They're keeping you trapped. The person signing your paycheck is not your provider. They're your warden. And you've been so well trained that you thank them for the privilege of your own imprisonment. Right now, as you sit there listening to these words, 95% of the people around you will retire broke. They will spend 40 years of their lives working hard, following the rules, being good employees, and at the end of it all, they will have nothing to show for it except a small Social Security check and the hope that someone else will take care of them. This is not their fault. They have been programmed from childhood to think like employees. They have been taught to trade their most precious asset, their time, for money. They wake up every morning, rush to a job they don't love, work for people they don't respect, and build dreams that belong to someone else. But here is what nobody tells you about this system. When you think like an employee, you are essentially renting out your life. You are saying to the world, I will give you 8 hours of my day, my energy, my creativity, and my best ideas, and in return, you will pay me just enough to come back tomorrow. The employee mindset is a trap, and most people don't even realize they are caught in it. They think that security comes from having a job. They believe that the safe path is to find a good company, work hard, and hope that company will take care of them forever. This thinking is not just wrong, it is dangerous. Let me tell you about Jennifer, a woman I met 3 years ago. She had worked for the same accounting firm for 15 years. She was good at her job, reliable, always on time. She thought she was secure. Then, one day, the company decided to cut costs. They eliminated her position and replaced her with a computer program. At 42 years old, Jennifer found herself starting over, competing with people half her age for jobs that paid less than what she was making 15 years earlier. Jennifer's story is not unique. It happens every single day to millions of people who have built their entire identity around being a good employee. They have put all their eggs in one basket, a basket that someone else controls. The employee trap goes deeper than just job security. It affects how you think about money, how you think about time, and how you think about your own potential. When you think like an employee, you think in terms of hours worked rather than value created. You think about getting paid for your time rather than getting paid for your results. This creates a ceiling on your income as an employee. You can only make money when you are working. If you don't work, you don't get paid. If you get sick, you don't get paid. If you take a vacation, you might get paid, but only because someone else decided you deserve it. Your earning power is completely dependent on someone else's generosity and someone else's business success. The employee mindset also creates a ceiling on your thinking when you work for someone else. You start to think like someone who works for someone else. You wait for instructions instead of taking initiative. You ask for permission instead of asking for forgiveness. You focus on doing your job rather than solving problems and creating value. This is why most employees never become wealthy. Wealth is not created by trading time for money. Wealth is created by solving problems, by creating value, by building systems that work whether you are there or not. But the employee mindset keeps you focused on the wrong things. It keeps you focused on security instead of growth, on comfort instead of opportunity. The most dangerous part of employee thinking is that it feels safe, it feels responsible. Society tells you that this is the right way to live. Your parents probably told you to get a good education so you could get a good job. Your teachers prepared you to be a good employee. The entire system is designed to create workers, not owners. But let me ask you this. If being a good employee is so safe and secure, why are 95% of employees broke when they retire? If the employee path is so reliable, why do so many people live paycheck to paycheck, stressed about money, unable to afford the life they really want? The answer is simple. The employee path is not safe. It never was. When you depend on someone else for your income, when you build your security on someone else's success, when you put your future in someone else's hands, you are taking the biggest risk of all. The real security comes from developing your own skills, creating your own opportunities, and building your own wealth. The real security comes from thinking like an owner instead of thinking like an employee. Every single day you continue to think like an employee is another day you are moving away from the life you really want. Every day you trade your time for money instead of creating value is another day you are building someone else's dream instead of your own. The good news is this: you can change your thinking. You can break free from the employee trap. You can start building real wealth and real security. But first, you have to understand that the problem is not your job. The problem is not your boss. The problem is not the economy. The problem is the way you think about work, money, and success. The moment you start thinking like an owner instead of an employee, everything changes. The moment you start focusing on creating value instead of trading time, your entire financial future changes. The moment you take full responsibility for your results instead of waiting for someone else to determine your worth, you join the 5% who retire wealthy and free. This transformation starts in your mind, and it starts right now. The difference between an employee and an entrepreneur is not money, education, or luck. The difference is how they think. When faced with the same situation, an employee and an entrepreneur will see completely different things. The employee sees problems, obstacles, and reasons why something cannot be done. The entrepreneur sees opportunities, solutions, and ways to create value. This shift in thinking is the most important change you will ever make in your life. It is the difference between spending your life reacting to circumstances and spending your life creating circumstances. It is the difference between being at the mercy of the economy and being someone who benefits from every economic condition. Let me show you exactly how this works. When an employee loses their job, they panic. They immediately start looking for another job, another boss, another company to take care of them. They think about unemployment benefits and how long their savings will last. Their focus is on finding security somewhere else. When an entrepreneur loses a client or a business fails, they think differently. They ask themselves, what can I learn from this? What opportunity does this create? How can I use this experience to build something better? Their focus is on creating new opportunities, not finding security from someone else. This is not just positive thinking. This is a fundamental difference in how successful people process information and make decisions. The employee mindset is defensive. It is focused on protecting what you have, on avoiding risk, on maintaining the status quo. The entrepreneurial mindset is offensive. It is focused on growth, on opportunity, on creating something better than what exists today. Take responsibility. This is where the real transformation begins. Employees wait for instructions. They wait for someone to tell them what to do, how to do it, and when to do it if something goes wrong. They look for someone to blame if results are poor. They point to factors outside their control. Entrepreneurs take full responsibility for their results. When something goes wrong, They ask, what could I have done differently? When results are poor, they look for ways to improve their strategy, their skills, or their approach. They understand that they are the primary creative force in their own lives. This shift from blame to responsibility is like switching on a light in a dark room. Suddenly, you can see possibilities that were invisible before. When you take full responsibility, you also take full control. When you stop making excuses, you start making progress. The entrepreneur thinks in terms of solutions, not problems. Every problem becomes a business opportunity. Traffic jams created ride-sharing companies. Long lines at coffee shops created mobile ordering apps. Expensive hotel rooms created home-sharing platforms. Entrepreneurs train themselves to see every frustration as a potential fortune. An employee sees a problem and thinks, someone should fix this. An entrepreneur sees the same problem and thinks, I should fix this. That simple shift in thinking has created more millionaires than any other single factor. Investment thinking separates the wealthy from the working class. Employees think about spending money. Entrepreneurs think about investing money. When an employee gets $1,000, they think about what they can buy. When an entrepreneur gets $1,000, they think about what they can build. This applies to everything: time, energy, relationships, and learning. Employees spend their time. Employees invest their time in activities that will pay them back with interest. Employees use their energy to complete tasks. Entrepreneurs use their energy to create systems that will work without them. Let me tell you about Marcus, a man who made this mental shift at age 35. For 12 years, he worked as a maintenance supervisor, complaining about his low pay and limited opportunities. One day, instead of complaining about the high cost of building maintenance, he started thinking like an entrepreneur. He realized that every building owner faced the same expensive, unreliable maintenance problems he was solving every day. Marcus started his own building maintenance company. He used the same skills he had as an employee, but now he was thinking like an owner. Instead of maintaining one building, he maintained 20. Instead of earning $40,000 a year, he earned $200,000. Same skills, same work, completely different results. The only thing that changed was his thinking. The entrepreneurial mind thrives under pressure because pressure creates diamonds. Employees try to avoid pressure, stress, and uncertainty. They want everything to be predictable and comfortable. Entrepreneurs understand that pressure is where opportunities are born. They know that the biggest rewards come from solving the biggest problems. And they trust that the biggest opportunities are found when they are conscious about when the economy gets tough. Employees worry about losing their jobs. Entrepreneurs get excited about the opportunities that economic uncertainty creates when industries change. Employees fear becoming obsolete. Entrepreneurs see chances to lead the change and profit from it. This is not about taking foolish risks or ignoring reality. This is about training your mind to see opportunity where others see only obstacles. Now that you understand how entrepreneurs think, let me show you how they act. Successful people do not just think differently, they build differently. They create systems that generate income, whether they are working or sleeping, whether they are healthy or sick, whether the economy is good or bad. The first rule of building wealth is this: never depend on a single source of income. Employees have one income stream, their job. If that stream stops, they're in trouble immediately. Entrepreneurs build multiple income streams. They create several ways for money to flow into their lives. This does not mean you need to quit your job tomorrow and start 10 businesses. This means you start building additional income sources while you still have the security of your current income. You can freelance in your spare time. You can create and sell something online. You can invest in stocks, real estate, or other people's businesses. You can teach what you know. You can solve problems for people who will pay you for solutions. The key is to start. Most people spend more time planning their vacation than planning their financial future. They research restaurants and hotels for hours, but they never research ways to create additional income. This is backwards thinking that keeps people trapped in the employee mindset. Compound growth changes everything about how money works. When you have a job, your income grows in a straight line. You might get a 3% raise each year. In 10 years, you are making 30% more. This is linear growth, and it creates linear wealth. When you own assets that grow and generate income, your money grows exponentially. Your investments earn money. The money your investments earn also earns money. This creates compound growth, and compound growth creates compound wealth. A person who invests $500 per month starting at age 25 will have more money at retirement than someone who invests $2,000 per month starting at age 45. Time and compound growth beat larger amounts every time. This is why employees who think like employees stay employees, and employees who think like entrepreneurs become entrepreneurs. The employee puts money in a savings account earning 1%. The entrepreneur puts money in investments that can earn 8 to 12% annually over time. This difference creates completely different financial futures. Your most valuable asset is not your house, your car, or your savings account. Your most valuable asset is your ability to learn and earn. Entrepreneurs invest constantly in developing skills that increase their earning power. They read books, attend seminars, take courses, and learn from mentors. They understand that every dollar invested in learning returns many dollars in earning. Employees often think education ends when school ends. Entrepreneurs know that education is a lifelong process. They study their industry. They study successful people. They study marketing, sales, finance, and leadership. They never stop growing because they understand that in a changing world, the person who stops learning becomes obsolete. Build relationships with other success-minded people. Employees hang around other employees and talk about their jobs, their bosses, and their problems. Entrepreneurs hang around other entrepreneurs and talk about opportunities, strategies, and solutions. Your income will usually be the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This is not about using people or being fake. This is about choosing to surround yourself with people who think bigger, who solve problems, who create value. When you spend time with people who are building businesses and creating wealth, you learn how they think and what they do. Their success becomes normal to you, and what becomes normal to you becomes possible for you. Financial intelligence separates the wealthy from the hopeful. Most people work hard for money. Then let that money sit in accounts earning almost nothing. Entrepreneurs make their money work as hard as they do. Fear is the only thing standing between you and the life you want. Not lack of money, not lack of education, not lack of connections. Fear, the fear of failure, the fear of success, the fear of what other people will think, the fear of leaving the familiar path that everyone else is walking. But here is what you need to understand about fear. It is not your enemy. Fear is information. It is your mind's way of telling you that you are about to do something important, something that will change your life. Every successful person has felt the same fears you are feeling right now. The difference is they acted in spite of the fear, not in the absence of it. The biggest lie you have been told is that having a job is secure. This lie keeps millions of people trapped in situations that are actually far more risky than starting their own business. When you have a job, one person controls your entire income. One decision by someone you have never met can eliminate your livelihood. One company policy change can cut your salary. One economic downturn can eliminate your position when you own your own business, when you have multiple income streams, when you control your own economic destiny. You have real security. You have the security that comes from knowing you can create value, solve problems, and generate income regardless of what happens to any single company or industry. Starting your own business does not mean you have to quit your job tomorrow and risk everything. Smart entrepreneurs start small while keeping their current income. They test their ideas, build their skills, and create income streams on the side. They transition gradually from employee to entrepreneur, reducing risk while increasing opportunity. You can start with just a few hours per week. You can begin by solving problems for people in your spare time. You can create something valuable and sell it online. You can invest in your education and develop skills that increase your earning power. You can network with other entrepreneurs and learn from their experiences. The key is to start before you feel ready. If you wait until you have all the money you think you need, all the knowledge you think you require, and all the confidence you believe is necessary, you will wait forever. Successful people start with what they have, where they are, and they figure out the rest as they go. Let me tell you about Rachel, a teacher who was afraid she could never leave education because it was all she knew. She started tutoring students online for extra income. Within 2 years, she had built an online education business that generated more income than her teaching salary. She did not quit teaching until her business was already successful. She managed her risk while building her opportunity. Every failure is education, and education is never wasted. Employees are taught to avoid failure at all costs. Entrepreneurs understand that failure is how you learn what works and what does not work. Every mistake teaches you something valuable about business, about people, about yourself. The most successful entrepreneurs have failed more times than unsuccessful people have even tried. They understand that failure is not the opposite of success, it is part of success. Each failure brings you closer to the breakthrough that changes everything. That attention makes all activity, all basic problem solving, all functional work feed. Confidence does not come from feeling ready. Confidence comes from taking action and succeeding step by step. You build confidence by starting small, achieving small victories, and gradually taking on bigger challenges. You cannot think your way to confidence. You must act your way to confidence right now. Someone with less education than you, less money than you, fewer connections than you, is building the business you have been thinking about starting. The time for thinking is over. The time for action is now. You have learned how entrepreneurs think differently, how they build systems for success, and how they overcome the fears that stop most people. Now you need to know exactly what to do when you wake up tomorrow morning. Your transformation begins with how you spend the first hour of your day. Employees wake up and immediately check their phones for messages from their boss, emails about work problems, news about things they cannot control. This programming sets their mind to react instead of create, to serve instead of lead, to worry instead of plan. Entrepreneurs start their day differently. They wake up 30 minutes earlier than they need to, and they use that time to work on their own goals before anyone else can claim their attention. They read books that develop their skills. They plan their day around creating value. They invest in their own growth before they invest their energy in someone else's business. This single change, how you spend the first hour of your day, will determine whether you think like an employee or an entrepreneur for the rest of the day. Control your morning, and you control your life. Set goals like an owner, not like a worker. Employees set goals around getting promoted, getting raises, or finding better jobs. These goals put other people in control of their success. Entrepreneurs set goals around creating value, solving problems, and building assets that generate income. Solving problems succeeds in, instead of setting a goal to get a 10% raise, set a goal to create an additional income stream that generates 10% more than your current salary. Instead of setting a goal to find a better job, set a goal to develop skills that make you so valuable that better opportunities come looking for you. Instead of setting a goal to retire comfortably, set a goal to build wealth that allows you to retire early and wealthy. The foundation of all wealth is creating value for other people. This is the most important principle you will ever learn about money. Money is simply a measurement of how much value you create for others. If you want more money, create more value. If you want a lot more money, create a lot more value for a lot more people. Employees are taught to focus on themselves, their needs, their wants, their problems, their advancement. Entrepreneurs focus on other people, what others need, what problems others have, what would make others' lives better or easier. This shift in focus changes everything about how money flows into your life. Think about every wealthy person you know or have heard about. They all became wealthy by solving problems for other people. The bigger the problem they solved, the more people they helped, the wealthier they became. This is not theory. This is the fundamental law of wealth creation. Long-term thinking separates the wealthy from the working class. Employees think about this week's paycheck, this month's bills, this year's vacation. Entrepreneurs think about building something that will generate income for decades. They think about creating assets they can pass on to their children. They think about building businesses that solve problems long after they are gone. This difference in time perspective changes every decision you make. When you think short term, you spend money on things that make you feel good today. When you think long term, you invest money in things that will make you wealthy tomorrow. When you think short term, you trade time for money. When you think long term, you build systems that generate money while you sleep. Let me tell you about David, a man who made this complete transformation at age 28. David worked as a customer service representative for a telecommunications company, earning $32,000 a year. He was frustrated, stressed, and living paycheck to paycheck despite working hard and following all the rules. One day, David decided to stop thinking like an employee. Instead of complaining about how poorly his company treated customers, he started thinking about how he could solve customer service problems better than anyone else. He noticed that small businesses struggled with the same communication issues he helped solve at his job every day. David started spending his evenings learning about business phone systems, website chat tools, and customer relationship management. He began offering customer service consulting to small businesses in his area, working just a few hours per week while keeping his regular job. Within 6 months, David was earning an extra $1,000 per month, helping small businesses improve their customer service. He reinvested this money into learning more skills, buying better tools, and marketing his services to more businesses. By the end of his first year, David's consulting income exceeded his salary, but instead of quitting immediately, he continued working both jobs for another 6 months, building his client base and saving money for a complete transition. These are her 2, 3, 6 years. It was amazing. In his second year, David left his job and focused full-time on his consulting business. He hired 2 part-time assistants and developed systems that allowed him to serve more clients without working more hours. His income grew to $80,000 that year. By year 3, David had built his customer service consulting into a full-service business improvement company. He had 8 employees, served over 200 clients, and generated more than $300,000 in annual revenue. His personal income exceeded $150,000. But David did not stop there. He understood the power of compound growth. He used his profits to invest in real estate, stock market index funds, and other businesses, he continued learning, growing, and building. Today, 5 years after making the decision to stop thinking like an employee, David owns multiple businesses, has a real estate portfolio worth over $2 million, and generates passive income that exceeds what most people earn working full-time. He created this wealth not by getting lucky, not by having special advantages, but by thinking and acting like an entrepreneur instead of an employee. David's story is not unique. This same transformation happens every day to ordinary people who make the decision to stop thinking like employees and start thinking like owners. The only difference between David and the person sitting in that same customer service job today is that David changed his thinking and took action. The compound effect of consistent entrepreneurial actions creates results that seem impossible to people who think like employees. Small actions, taken consistently over time, create extraordinary results. Reading 30 minutes per day becomes expert-level knowledge in 3 years. Investing $200 per month becomes $100,000 in 15 years. Helping one new client per month becomes a business serving hundreds of clients within 5 years. Your blueprint for success is simple, but it requires daily commitment. Wake up earlier and invest in your own growth. Set goals around creating value, not getting benefits from others. Focus on solving problems for other people. Think long-term about building assets instead of short-term about earning paychecks. Take action before you feel ready. Learn from every result. Invest your profits back into growth. The moment you begin implementing this blueprint, you stop being an employee and start being an entrepreneur. The moment you stop trading time for money and start creating value for others, you join the 5% who retire wealthy and free. Your old life of employee thinking, employee habits, and employee results ends today. Your new life of entrepreneurial thinking, entrepreneurial habits, and entrepreneurial results begins right now. The only question is, what will you do in the next 24 hours to start building the life you really want? The choice is yours, and the time is now.